The Alpha King expected to watch a death recording. He had already prepared himself for the usual end. A few seconds of shaking footage. A black shape lunging across the enclosure. A scream cut short, blood on reinforced glass, and the security officer's dry report, confirming that another specialist had failed. Instead, Aaron Rutherford watched his own beast lower its massive head into a stranger's lap and wag its tail like a stray dog that had finally found the one hand it trusted. The first heavy sweep of that tail struck the ground. Then the second. And when the sound reached him through the feed, something inside Aaron's chest snapped loose, as if an old chain he had forgotten had finally broken. His fingers tightened around the edge of the console. His breathing slipped out of rhythm. Because whatever that Omega was doing down there, Aaron's beast was not the only one responding. 48 hours earlier, Kyo Takada sat across a cold steel desk, staring at a contract that could decide the fate of everything he had built. Kyo was an Omega, but not the kind most people understood. In private medical records and restricted behavioral files, he was listed as a resonant Omega. His pheromones did not collapse under alpha pressure. They did not fold into submission or drag his body to its knees before his mind could resist. They adapted. They stabilized. In rare cases, they even overrode pressure without directly fighting it. No alpha had ever forced Kyo to kneel. Not once. That trait made him valuable in the dangerous field of unstable alpha rehabilitation and predator handling. It also made him expensive. But right now, reputation did not matter. His sanctuary was running out of time. For 6 years, Kyo had managed a remote rescue facility for animals no one else would touch. Feral wolves, hybrid predators, genetically altered beasts, former fighting animals. Creatures already marked for euthanasia before they ever had a chance to be understood. Kyo kept them alive. He rehabilitated them when everyone else called them lost. He knew that monsters were not always born. Sometimes they were made by cages, isolation, pain, and hands that only knew how to restrain or punish. But empathy did not pay for land. Patience did not buy medicine. Compassion did not keep security systems running. Death was closing in fast, and if he failed to secure funding that month, the sanctuary would collapse. Every animal he had saved would become someone else's disposal problem. Across from him sat Dr. Alistair Smith, a corporate fixer who specialized in cleaning up problems for powerful alphas. He was in his mid-40s, perfectly dressed, perfectly controlled, and so calm that it made dangerous things sound administrative. He slid the contract forward with 2 fingers. "Your client is Aaron Rutherford," Smith said. Kyo did not react, but the name carried weight. Aaron Rutherford, the Alpha King of the Northern Territory. A reclusive apex alpha whose pheromones alone could force trained alphas into submission. Packs answered to him. Borders shifted around his decisions. He rarely appeared in public, but when he did, people remembered one thing above all else: the pressure. Standing near him was said to feel like standing too close to something ancient, vast, and uninterested in recognizing anyone as equal. Kyo turned a page in the contract. "You said this is about an animal. What exactly am I dealing with?" Smith adjusted his glasses slightly. "A wolf. Or something close to one. Unregistered genetics, extreme aggression. It carries alpha-level pheromones comparable to Mr. Rutherford himself." Kyo's fingers stopped on the paper. "A wolf with pheromones comparable to an alpha king. In practical terms, Yes, it has already injured multiple Alpha security personnel. Riot gear, sedatives, remote suppressors, reinforced barriers, none of it worked. So you want it controlled? We want it stabilized, Smith corrected smoothly. If stabilization fails, the asset will be eliminated. His tone did not change. No hesitation, no concern. To him, this was not a living being. It was a threat category, waiting to be closed. Kyo slowly shut the file. Why me? Because you specialize in cases others consider lost. And because you are the only Omega on record who can stand in front of a dominant Alpha without collapsing. That was true. It was also not the whole truth. Kyo could hear the rest of it beneath Smith's polished words. He was not merely being hired. He was being tested, possibly used as the final attempt before execution. Kyo picked up the pen. I don't tame things, he said quietly. I understand them. Then he signed. 2 days later, he drove up a winding mountain road that cut through dense forest and heavy fog. The higher he climbed, the quieter the world became. The signal disappeared first, then traffic, then any sign that ordinary life still existed somewhere below. Trees rose on both sides of the road like dark witnesses, their wet branches vanishing into gray mist. When the estate finally appeared ahead, it did not look like a home. It looked like controlled territory, carved into the mountain itself. Dark stone, reinforced glass, layered security, cameras, sensors, gates, and walls built either to keep things out or to keep something in. At the main gate, he was stopped immediately by Garrett, head of security. Garrett was tall, heavily built, and marked with old scars that told their own story. An alpha who had survived more than one bad situation. His gaze lingered on Kyo for a second longer than necessary, not with contempt, but with suspicion. He was clearly trying to understand why an Omega had been allowed anywhere near a place that had broken armed alphas. Identification, Garrett said. Kyo handed it over. Garrett scanned his documents, checked his bag, confiscated his phone, and stepped aside. Follow me. Inside the air felt wrong, not cold, pressured. Kyo felt Aaron before he saw him. The weight of him was in the walls, in the silence, in the way the staff moved too carefully. Aaron Rutherford stood near a wide window, overlooking the mountains. He was tall, broad-shouldered, dressed simply, but nothing about him needed decoration. Authority lived in the stillness of his body. When he turned, the room changed shape. Pheromones rolled through the space, heavy, dominant, absolute. An ordinary Omega would have dropped without thinking. Many alphas would have lowered their eyes. Kyo did not move. He breathed evenly as his own pheromones adjusted on instinct, smoothing the sharpest edges of Aaron's pressure, just enough for him to remain stable. Not resistance. Not submission. Synchronization. Aaron noticed immediately. His amber eyes narrowed slightly. Interesting. You're the Omega. I'm the one you hired, Kyo replied calmly. The brief silence that followed told Aaron more than any file could have. No submission instinct, no fear response, not even forced politeness. Just balance. Aaron took one slow step closer. The pressure in the room should have intensified. Instead, something subtle shifted. For a fraction of a second, his pheromones did not push. They aligned. Aaron's expression hardened immediately, as if he rejected the reaction the moment he recognized it. You understand, he said. That what is below this estate is not something you can approach like a normal case. I don't approach anything normally. I observe first. If it decides to kill you, my men won't reach you in time. I didn't come here expecting protection. Another pause. Then Aaron turned away. Garrett will take you down. The lower levels felt less like a basement and more like a sealed research facility. Reinforced corridors. Controlled lighting. Heavy doors. A faint metallic scent mixed with something sharper beneath it. Pheromones concentrated and unstable. Garrett stopped in front of a thick glass door, his posture tightening. He doesn't sleep? Garrett said. Doesn't it, right? Keeps pacing. Broke reinforced glass last week. A short pause. I've seen alphas lose control. This is worse. Kyo nodded once. And Aaron? Garrett hesitated for only a second. He doesn't come down here. That answered more than anything else. The door opened. Inside was an observation room separated from the enclosure by reinforced glass. Beyond it lay a space designed to imitate a natural environment. Dirt, rocks, water, artificial slopes, shadowed corners. But a cage remained a cage, no matter how carefully it was decorated. In the center moved the wolf. Kyo stopped. It was massive, larger than any predator he had ever worked with. Black fur swallowed the light. Muscle shifted beneath its body with frightening power, every step heavy and exact. But the size was not what mattered most. It was the scent. Pure alpha. Ancient. Dangerous. Familiar. Kyo's eyes narrowed slightly, because beneath the aggression and instability. The pheromone signature was identical to the man upstairs. The moment Kyo stepped closer to the glass, the wolf stopped pacing. Slowly, it turned and locked onto him. A low, vibrating growl rolled through the enclosure, strong enough to hum through the reinforced walls. Garrett's hand moved toward the emergency control panel. "If you go in there," Garrett said, "we shoot if necessary." Kyo did not look away from the wolf. "No," Garrett frowned. "That's not your call. It is if you want results. Turn off the turrets." Silence. Then a green light blinked on the panel. Authorization granted. Aaron was watching. Kyo exhaled slowly, letting his body settle. His pheromones shifted low, steady, neutral, not inviting, not defensive, simply present. The inner gate unlocked with a heavy sound. He stepped inside. The wolf did not charge. It lowered its head slightly and began to move toward him, slow and controlled. Each step carried weight. Intent. Kyo felt his instincts react, but he did not step back. Instead, he did the one thing no one in that facility expected. He sat down, open posture. No defense, no challenge. The wolf stopped a few feet away. Close enough for Kyo to feel the heat of its body. Close enough that one wrong movement could end everything. Kyo slowly raised one hand, palm open, low. An offer. In the control room, Aaron's grip tightened on the console. Because as the wolf leaned in, he felt it. Contact, like phantom fingers brushing against his own skin. And for the first time in years, his beast did not want to fight. It wanted to stay. The wolf did not attack. That alone made every alpha behind the glass hold his breath. But what happened next was something none of them had ever seen. Kyo kept his hand steady, low enough to avoid triggering dominance. His breathing remained slow, his pheromones settling into a calm and stable frequency. Not seductive, not submissive. Safe, the massive wolf stepped closer. Amber eyes locked onto him, muscles coiled with restrained power. 5 steps away. 3. 1. Then it stopped. It lowered its head, nostrils flaring as it inhaled Kyo's scent. Up in the control room, Aaron felt that exact inhale as if it happened in his own lungs. His chest tightened. His beast was not merely observing, it was experiencing. Down in the enclosure, Kyo did not move. He let the wolf take its time. That was the first rule. Never rush a predator that had learned to expect violence. The wolf's growl faded, replaced by a low, uneven rumble that no longer sounded like a threat. It sounded conflicted. Kyo shifted his hand slightly, just enough for his fingers to brush the thick fur near the wolf's chest. The reaction was immediate. The wolf froze, and so did Aaron. Because the moment Kyo made contact, Aaron felt it like electricity moving through his nerves. Not pain, not fear. Something warmer. Something dangerously close to relief. The wolf let out a low sound. Not a growl this time, but something softer, almost uncertain. It leaned forward slightly, pressing more of its weight into Kyo's hand. Kyo exhaled quietly. Slowly, carefully, he moved his hand upward. His fingers slid into the thick fur behind the wolf's ear. He applied steady pressure, firm but controlled. The wolf's entire body tensed for 1 second, then dropped. A heavy breath left its lungs as its hind legs folded, its massive body lowered to the ground, head tilting into Kyo's touch. The sound it made this time was unmistakable. A soft whine. Garrett stared through the glass in disbelief. "That's not possible," he muttered. This was the same creature that had almost torn through reinforced armor. The same beast that had sent trained alphas to the hospital. Now it was leaning into an Omega's hand like it had been waiting for this all its life. Kyo did not react outwardly, but inside, he understood. This was not dominance. This was not submission. This was deprivation. The wolf had been isolated, cut off from pack contact, physical reassurance, and any proof that closeness did not have to mean pain. For something carrying alpha-level pheromones, isolation did not merely create aggression. It broke stability. "You're not violent," Kyo said quietly. "You're exhausted." The wolf made another low sound and lowered its head fully into Kyo's lap. Its body relaxed, inch by inch, tension bleeding from its limbs. Kyo adjusted his posture to support the weight and continued stroking through the thick black fur in slow, steady motions. Upstairs, Aaron's world tilted. He felt all of it. The pressure of fingers, the warmth, the calm. For years, his existence had been defined by control, suppressing instinct, locking away the part of himself that wanted to dominate, tear, claim, and protect too violently. He had cut that part out and turned it into something separate, contained, dangerous. But now that part was not raging. It was not trying to break free. It was content. Aaron turned away from the screen, running a hand through his hair, trying to ground himself. This was not supposed to happen. No one was supposed to get that close. No one was supposed to affect him like this. Back in the enclosure. "Kyo." He moved his hand along the wolf's neck, then down toward its shoulder. No resistance, no aggression, only quiet acceptance. That confirmed it. The wolf was not unstable because it was uncontrollable. It was unstable because it had never been given a point of balance. "Turn off the external monitoring audio," Kyo said calmly without looking back. Garrett frowned. "Why?" "Because if it hears constant surveillance, it won't fully relax. Right now, it is choosing not to see me as a threat. Don't ruin that." Garrett hesitated, then glanced toward the camera. A second later, the audio feed cut. Aaron watched in silence now, unable to hear what Kyo was saying, but still feeling every second of contact like it was happening to him directly. His chest rose and fell slower, unconsciously syncing with the rhythm below. That was when he realized something far more dangerous. It was not only the beast responding. He was too. Minutes passed. Then longer. The wolf did not move away. If anything, it shifted closer, its massive body pressing into Kyo's legs like it did not want the contact to end. Kyo did not push it off. He adjusted, grounding himself, letting the weight settle. "This is not about control," he murmured. "You don't need to fight everything." The wolf's tail moved. Once. Then again, Garrett stared, frozen. That was not a reflex. It was intentional. The alpha-level predator, the one that had never shown trust toward anyone, was responding to an omega not with fear or resistance, but with something far more dangerous. Trust? Upstairs, Aaron closed his eyes briefly. His jaw tightened. The sensation hit him again, stronger this time. The slow strokes, the warmth that followed, the calm. It was addictive. That was the only word for it. His beast was not merely accepting Kyo. It was attaching. Aaron opened his eyes and locked his gaze on the screen. "Pull him out," he said, voice lower than before. Garrett stiffened. "Sir, he's stabilizing it." "Pull him out." But Kyo did not move. He had not heard the order, and even if he had, he would not have obeyed, because in that moment he felt it too. Not only the wolf's breathing, not only the slowing heartbeat beneath his palm, something else. A second presence. Faint, distant, connected. Kyo's eyes narrowed slightly. Then he spoke under his breath, barely louder than the wolf's breathing. "You're not alone in there, are you?" The wolf's ear twitched, and upstairs. Aaron froze. Because for the first time, the Omega was not only reaching his beast, he was reaching him. Kyo did not pull his hand away. That was the difference between him and everyone else who had ever entered that enclosure. Most people reacted the moment something felt wrong. They broke contact, shifted position, tried to regain control. Kyo did none of that. He stayed exactly where he was. Fingers still buried in thick fur, breathing slow and even, pheromones steady. But his mind had already locked onto what he had felt. There was something else connected to this wolf. Not only instinct, not only behavior. Something conscious. The wolf remained pressed against him, heavy and grounded. But its ear twitched again when Kyo spoke. That tiny reaction confirmed it. It was not merely responding like an animal. It was listening. In the control room, Aaron did not move. For the first time since Kyo arrived, his expression lost its cold control. His fingers hovered over the console, but he did not press anything. If he stopped this now, he might lose whatever connection had just formed. And that thought unsettled him more than anything. Down below, Kyo slowly adjusted one leg so he could sit more comfortably under the wolf's weight. He did not rush. Every movement was deliberate. He let his hand move again, sliding from behind the wolf's ear down along its neck, then toward the shoulder. No resistance. No tension. The wolf allowed it, even leaned into the touch. "That's it," Kyo murmured. "You don't need to prove anything." The wolf exhaled heavily. Its breathing was slow and deep now. The rigid coiled tension from before was gone, replaced by something calmer, something stable. Kyo had seen this before in traumatized animals, but never at this scale. Never with this level of pheromone intensity. He focused again. There it was. The second presence, faint but unmistakable. It was not coming from the wolf's body. It felt layered, like something overlapping it. Kyo did not look up at the cameras. He kept his attention on the wolf, speaking softly, as if the words were meant for both of them. "You're connected," he whispered. "Not just physically." The wolf's breathing hitched. Aaron felt that too. Awareness. Reaction. His pulse spiked, sharp enough to cut through the strange calm that had settled in his chest. This Omega was figuring it out faster than anyone ever had. Kyo did not stop. "You've been separated for too long. That's why it hurts." The wolf let out a low sound, deeper this time, almost like a suppressed growl, but it did not move away. Its head remained in Kyo's lap. That was the key. It did not reject him, which meant he was right. Kyo slowly lifted his other hand and brought it closer to the wolf's face. He paused halfway, allowing time for a reaction. The wolf's eyes flicked toward the movement, watching closely, but it did not snap or retreat. Kyo gently placed his hand along the side of its jaw, fingers resting lightly against the fur contact. Again, Aaron felt it. Stronger. Not just the physical sensation, but the intent behind it. Calm. Acceptance. Steadiness. It moved through him in a way he could not control, pushing past every barrier he had built over the years. His breathing slowed against his will. His shoulders dropped slightly, tension leaving his body without permission. That was when it struck him. This was not only the beast calming down. Kyo was stabilizing both of them. Aaron stepped back from the console and dragged a hand down his face. This was dangerous. If this continued, the line between him and the beast would start to blur again. That was exactly what he had tried to prevent. And yet he did not stop it, because, for the first time in years, he did not want to. Back in the enclosure, Kyo adjusted his pressure along the wolf's jawline, testing tolerance. The wolf responded immediately, tilting its head into his palm and pressing harder. "This isn't aggression," Kyo whispered. "It's deprivation." The wolf's tail moved again. Slower this time, brushing the ground, not frantic, not reactive. Controlled. Intentional. Garrett lowered his hand from the emergency panel without realizing it. His posture changed. The tension in his shoulders eased, and his gaze was no longer locked in anticipation of an attack. He was watching something he did not understand. Minutes passed, but Kyo did not rush. He let the wolf settle deeper into contact until its breathing fully stabilized. Then he leaned forward slightly, close enough for his voice to reach the animal alone. "You've been alone too long," he said. No peck, no touch, no anchor. The wolf's body tensed for a second, then relaxed again. Recognition. Not instinct. Memory upstairs. Aaron's chest tightened sharply. Alone. That word hit harder than anything else. That was why he had done it. To isolate the part of himself that could not function inside a structured hierarchy. To contain it. To control it. But now isolation was not the solution. It was the wound. Kyo shifted his fingers into the thicker fur at the base of the wolf's neck and applied steady pressure in slow circles. The wolf let out a deep rumble and sank further into the ground, fully relaxed. "That's it. You don't need to fight me." The wolf's eyes closed halfway. Trust. Kyo's gaze softened, but his focus remained sharp. He had confirmed the behavioral pattern. He had established physical contact. Now came the next step: can't catch. "You can feel him, can't you?" Kyo said quietly. The wolf's ear twitched again. Upstairs, Aaron stopped breathing for a second. But he can feel you too. Kyo continued. The wolf pressed its head more firmly into Kyo's lap, reacting to something deeper than words. You're not separate. Silence. Then the wolf let out a slow breath, and for a split second, Kyo felt it again. The second presence was clearer now, not merely overlapping. Reaching back, Kyo did not smile. But internally, everything aligned. This was not just a rehabilitation case. And as the massive wolf lay there, calm and grounded beneath his touch, Kyo understood one thing with absolute certainty. He had not stepped into a cage with a dangerous alpha beast. He had stepped into the center of something broken. And for the first time, it was beginning to respond. From that day forward, the pattern changed. Kyo stopped being a visitor in the enclosure. He became part of it. Every morning, before the security team even rotated shifts, the massive wolf was already waiting near the inner gate, not pacing, not throwing itself against reinforced walls, waiting, still, alert. The moment the lock disengaged, it stepped forward, not aggressively, but with focused anticipation. Garrett noticed first. It's tracking his schedule, he muttered once. Like it knows when he's coming. Kyo did not treat it like a miracle. He treated it like progress. Each session followed structure. He entered slowly, without sudden movement, pheromones steadied and controlled. He sat rather than stood over the wolf. He never challenged its height or space. The wolf approached every time, lowering its head slightly before making contact. That detail mattered. It was not submission, it was acknowledgement. Kyo reinforced it the same way each time. Consistent touch. Steady pressure, calm breathing. No rewards, no commands. Presence. And every time, Aaron felt it. At first, he tried to ignore it. He stayed in his office, avoided the monitors, buried himself in reports and meetings he had not attended in months. But it did not matter. The moment Kyo stepped into the enclosure, the connection activated. The first brush of fingers through fur, the slow press of a hand against the wolf's neck, the shift in breathing. Aaron experienced it all as if it were happening to his own body. It was not only sensation, it carried emotion, calm, trust, warmth, things he had not allowed himself to feel in years. It became a problem. 3 days in, he stopped pretending he could ignore it. By the end of the first week, he was watching every session. By the second, he could not look away. When Kyo was present, the wolf changed completely. It no longer paced. It did not growl unless startled by outside noise. It did not bare its teeth without cause. Instead, it stayed close. Too close sometimes. More than once, it shifted its full weight onto Kyo's legs, pinning him to the ground like a massive living restraint. The first time it happened, security nearly triggered the emergency override. Kyo lifted one hand slightly, signaling them to stand down. He did not panic. He adjusted his position and kept one hand moving along the wolf's neck. "It's not trying to trap me," he said later when Garrett questioned him. "It's trying to stay anchored." Garrett did not like that explanation, but he could not argue with the results. Another change came soon after. The wolf started bringing objects: a loose stone, a broken branch, a strip of torn fabric from a damaged training barrier. It carried them in its mouth, dropped them near Kyo, then sat back and watched. The first time, Kyo simply observed. The second time, he acknowledged it with a small nod and touched the offered object before returning his attention to the wolf. That was enough. The behavior. Repeat it. It's offering. Kyo explained during a debrief in Aaron's study. He stood across from Aaron with a tablet in his hand, but his focus was not on the screen. This is pack behavior. Resource sharing. It is trying to establish connection in a way it understands. Aaron leaned back slightly, arms crossed, expression unreadable. It has no pack. It does now, Kyo said, simply. That answer lingered longer than it should have. Aaron did not respond immediately. Instead, he watched Kyo's hands. Clean, steady. The same hands that ran through his beast's fur every day. The same hands Aaron felt every single time. His jaw tightened. You touch it constantly? Physical contact is necessary. Without it, stabilization won't hold. Aaron's gaze sharpened. And you are certain it is only affecting the animal? There it was. The question beneath the question. Kyo paused for half a second. Not long enough to be obvious, but long enough to matter. No. Silence filled the room. Explain. Aaron said. Kyo set the tablet down without breaking eye contact. The connection is not one-directional. It is layered. The responses I'm seeing, both behavioral and pheromonal, suggest that what is in that enclosure is not isolated. It reacts to me, but something else reacts with it. Same rhythm, same shift, same timing. That doesn't happen with a normal subject. Another pause. You're linked to it. The words hung in the air, direct and unavoidable. Aaron's expression did not change, but the pressure in the room did. It dropped, then surged again. Subtle, but noticeable. For 1 second, control slipped. Then it snapped back into place. You're making assumptions. I'm observing patterns. Neither of them looked away. Then, unexpectedly, Aaron stepped forward. Not dominantly, closer. Close enough for Kyo to feel the shift in temperature and the faint trace of Aaron's pheromones moving differently this time. Not pushing, not suppressing, searching. Kyo did not step back. For the first time, the distance between them closed without resistance. Aaron's voice dropped. Then tell me, Omega, if what you're saying is true. His gaze flicked briefly to Kyo's mouth, then returned to his eyes. Why does it calm down the moment you touch it? Kyo held his gaze. Because it trusts me. And why would it do that? Because I don't see it as something that needs to be controlled. The words landed. Harder than expected. Aaron stepped back abruptly, turning away before the moment could become anything more. His hand rose briefly to the back of his neck as if grounding himself. Tomorrow, he said, voice returning to its usual control. You'll extend the session time. Understood. As Kyo turned to leave, he paused and glanced back. Whatever you did to separate it from yourself, it didn't solve the problem. Aaron did not turn around. I know. Kyo left. And for the first time since this began, Aaron did not feel in control of the situation. Because the bond forming in that underground enclosure was not only stabilizing his beast, it was pulling him back towards something he had tried to bury. And the closer Kyo got, the harder it became to resist. By the start of the 3rd week, the change was undeniable. The wolf no longer behaved like a contained threat. It behaved like something that had finally found its anchor. It waited for Kyo. It followed him through the enclosure. It responded to his movement before he spoke. Most importantly, it calmed the moment he made contact. For the security team, that was progress. For Kyo, it was confirmation. For Aaron, it was something far more dangerous. Because the more stable the beast became, the less stable he felt. Every session hit harder than the last. The connection was no longer faint or distant. It was immediate. The moment Kyo entered the enclosure, Aaron felt the shift. When Kyo's hand moved, Aaron felt the expectation. When the wolf leaned in, he felt the weight of that contact in his own body. And when Kyo spoke in that low, steady voice, Aaron could no longer hear the words because the audio stayed off, but he felt their effect. Calm. Warmth. Acceptance. It cut through him in ways nothing else had. He stopped sleeping, not because he could not, but because every time he closed his eyes, the sensation lingered. Phantom touches. The echo of Kyo's presence. It followed him outside the sessions. It was getting stronger. Kyo had stopped treating the case like standard rehabilitation. He no longer tracked only behavior. He tracked response timing, synchronization, and overlap. The pattern was consistent now. Every reaction from the wolf had a mirrored delay, barely measurable but present, as if a second system were processing the same input. One morning, he tested it. Instead of immediately reaching out, Kyo paused just inside the enclosure. He did not move closer. He did not initiate contact. He simply stood there and watched. The wolf approached halfway, then stopped. Its head tilted slightly, waiting. Kyo stayed still. 3 seconds. 5. 10. The wolf shifted its weight, then made a low sound. Not aggressive, not warning. It stepped closer, slower this time, until it was within reach. Still, Kyo did not move. Another second passed. Then the wolf lowered its head and nudged forward, pressing lightly against Kyo's hand without Kyo offering it. Initiation. Kyo's eyes sharpened. Good, he said quietly. Your choice. He finally moved his hand, placing it gently against the wolf's neck to reinforce the behavior. That confirmed it. This was not dependency. It was active bonding. Upstairs, Aaron felt contact the instant it happened, but what caught him off guard was what came before it, the waiting. The pause. The tension building when Kyo did not move. Aaron had felt that too. The expectation. The need. His hand tightened against the edge of his desk. That was not only the beast, that was him. Later, that evening, Kyo stood in Aaron's study again for their daily debrief. The dynamic between them had shifted, even if neither openly acknowledged it. There was less distance now, not physically. Something else. Awareness. It initiated contact today. Kyo said, placing the tablet down. Not reactive. Intentional. Aaron stood near the window, looking out over the dark mountains. But his attention was clearly elsewhere. That means the bond is stabilizing, Kyo continued. It is no longer only accepting me. It is seeking me out. Aaron's jaw tightened slightly. And what does that mean for containment? It means containment is no longer the priority. Integration is. That word shifted something in the room. Aaron turned. Explain. Kyo met his gaze directly. You separated it to control it, but the separation is what destabilized it. It does not need to be controlled. It needs to be whole. Silence. Aaron's eyes darkened slightly. Something sharper flickering beneath the surface. You're suggesting I reverse the process? I'm suggesting you stop treating it like something separate from you. That hit harder than anything else, Kyo had said. Aaron took a slow step forward. The pressure in the room shifted again, subtle but present. His pheromones were not pushing like before. They were unsettled, fluctuating. You don't understand what that means. Then explain it. For the first time, Aaron did not deflect. It is not just instinct, he said. voice lower now. It is everything I cut out. Aggression. Dominance. The part of me that does not stop. If I let that merge again, it will not simply stabilize, it will amplify. Kyo held his gaze. Then why is it calm with me? The question landed differently. Aaron did not answer because he knew the answer, and saying it aloud would make it real. Kyo stepped closer, neither aggressively nor cautiously, just enough. Because it trusts me. And you feel that too? Aaron's eyes flickered for only a second. It was enough. Kyo did not look away. This is not only about it anymore. The bond is not one-directional, you already know that. Aaron's breathing slowed, but his posture remained tense. And what exactly are you implying? Kyo answered without hesitation. That it is not only your beast reacting to me. Silence. It's you. The words hung between them. Clear, direct, unavoidable. Aaron's control slipped for a fraction of a second. His pheromones shifted sharply, not outward but inward, like something tightening. Then it settled again, but the damage was already done. Kyo had seen it. More importantly, he had felt it. Because standing this close now, the connection was no longer only in the enclosure. It was here between them, faint but present. Kyo did not step back. Instead, he did something no one had done since arriving at this estate. He reached out slowly and stopped just short of Aaron's arm. A clear choice. No sudden movement, no pressure. Only an offer. Aaron's entire body went still. For 1 second, nothing happened, then he did not move away. That was all the permission Kyo needed. His fingers made contact, light, barely there, but enough. The moment it happened, Aaron felt it. Not through the beast, directly. Warmth spread instantly, sharper and clearer than anything he had felt through the connection before. It was not filtered. It was not distant. It was real. Aaron's breath caught. His control slipped again before he could stop it. His hand twitched as if he might pull away, but he did not. Kyo kept his touch steady. No pressure. No demand. Present. You are not as separate as you think, Kyo said quietly. Aaron lowered his gaze to the point of contact. For the first time, he did not feel like he was losing control. He felt like something was finally aligning. And that realization was more dangerous than anything else. Because if Kyo was right, this was not only about stabilizing a beast. It was about undoing everything Aaron had built to keep himself contained. And for the first time, he was not sure he wanted to stop it. Everything broke 2 nights later. It did not start in the enclosure. It started upstairs, in the part of Aaron's world Kyo had not needed to touch until then. Dr. Alistair Smith returned without warning. This time, he did not come alone. With him were 3 men in tactical armor, members of a private disposal unit contracted by the board. They were not ordinary security. They were specialists trained to eliminate unstable alpha-class threats. Silver nitrate rounds, reinforced armor, synchronized movement. They moved like people who had done this before. Kyo was still in the enclosure when the override triggered. The first sign was sound, not a roar, not an alarm. A mechanical shift in air pressure as the system locked down. Kyo looked up immediately, his hand still resting on the wolf's neck. The wolf reacted too, but not with panic. Its body tensed, ears pulling back, senses sharpening. It felt the change. Upstairs, Aaron stood in the main hall facing Smith. The older man did not bother hiding his intent this time. "The board has reached a decision," Smith said calmly. "Your condition has become a liability. The asset below is no longer an experiment. It is a threat. We are ending it. Aaron's eyes did not leave him. You are not authorized. I am acting on behalf of those who control your territory's funding, infrastructure, and political protection. You may be an alpha king, Aaron, but even kings answer to systems. That was a mistake. The temperature in the room seemed to drop, not physically, but in pressure. Aaron's pheromones shifted instantly, not spreading, but compressing into something sharp and lethal. Get out. Smith did not move. The team is already moving. That was when Aaron felt it. Not the words, the shift below. Kyo, the moment the internal lock engaged, the connection spiked. Sharp, violent, not calm anymore, not stable. The beast reacted instantly, and Aaron felt that too. Adrenaline, aggression, protective instinct surging all at once. He turned without another word. Back in the enclosure, the inner gate opened. 3 men stepped in with rifles raised, movements precise. Their leader was a tall alpha with a scar running across his jaw. Callum, head of the disposal unit. His eyes scanned the enclosure quickly, locking first on the wolf, then on Kyo. Step away from the target, Callum said. Kyo did not move. The wolf stepped forward instead, not toward Kyo, toward them. Everything changed in that second. The calm Kyo had built over weeks collapsed under threat. The wolf's body lowered, muscles tightening, lips pulling back to reveal teeth it had never fully shown during their sessions. A growl rolled through the enclosure, deeper and heavier than before. Last warning, Callum said, adjusting his grip on the rifle. Move. No, Kyo said, calm even now. If you fire, you will trigger a full attack response. Callum did not hesitate. That's the point. The safety clicked off upstairs. Aaron moved. He did not call security. He did not give orders. He did not think. He ran down the corridor, through reinforced doors, past Garrett, who had already drawn his weapon but did not try to stop him. Garrett knew. There was no stopping this anymore. Back in the enclosure, the first shot fired. It was not lethal. Not yet. But it hit. The silver nitrate round grazed the wolf's shoulder, and the reaction was immediate. Pain. Sharp. Burning. The wolf lunged, not at Kyo, but at the men. Fast. Too fast. The second shot fired and missed because the wolf had already closed the distance. Kyo, move! Garrett's voice echoed from the observation room. Kyo did not run. If he ran, the hunt instinct would break loose completely. Instead, he stepped forward between them. Stop! For half a second, everything froze. The wolf halted mid-motion, breathing heavily, eyes locked on the threat. The men adjusted their aim. Then the door behind them exploded open. Aaron did not enter like a man. He entered like something that had already lost patience with human shape. His eyes burned gold, brighter and unstable. His breathing was uneven. His body was already answering the surge. He did not speak. He did not warn. He moved straight into the enclosure. Stand down, Callum snapped, shifting his aim. He was too slow. Aaron hit the ground inside the enclosure, and everything broke. The transformation was not gradual. It was violent. Bone shifted. Muscle tore and reformed. The sound alone made the disposal team hesitate. His body dropped, then expanded. Fur broke through skin in seconds. Within moments, no human stood there anymore. There were two massive black wolves. One bleeding, one radiating pure, unrestrained alpha dominance. Kyo did not move. He watched, because what mattered was not the fight. It was what came after. The two wolves moved together, not as enemies, but as one synchronized force. The disposal team did not stand a chance. Weapons were knocked aside, rifles crushed, bodies thrown back without hesitation. Not killed, but completely neutralized. Callum hit the wall hard enough to lose his weapon and the breath in his lungs. Heavy, charged. The wolves turned toward each other. For a second, everything stilled. Then the original wolf, the one Kyo had worked with, lowered its head. Not in submission, in alignment. Its form shifted, not physically, but deeper. It dissolved into something like smoke and shadow, then surged forward straight into the second wolf, into Aaron. The impact was invisible, but the result was immediate. The larger wolf staggered once, body tensing violently as energy moved through it like a shock wave. Then it stilled. One. Wall, the Alpha King, stood alone now, complete. His eyes, Aaron's eyes, locked onto Kyo. Kyo did not run. He did not step back. He stood there, breathing steadily, even as the most dangerous Alpha in the Northern Territory stared him down at full strength. The wolf stepped forward, slow and heavy, each movement deliberate. It stopped inches away, close enough for Kyo to feel the heat of its body and the raw power in every breath. For 1 second, nothing happened. Then Kyo did what he had done on the first day. He raised his hand, slowly, palm open. No fear, no resistance. The wolf hesitated for only a fraction of a second. Then it lowered its head and pressed forward into his palm. The contact was different this time. Stronger, clearer, no distance, no separation. Kyo felt all of it, not only the beast, but Aaron, whole. And for the first time, there was no conflict in it, no resistance, one presence, one response. Kyo's fingers slid into the fur behind its ear, steady and grounding. "That's it," he said quietly. The wolf exhaled and did not pull away, because now there was nothing left to fight. The room did not move for several seconds after the fusion. The disposal team remained down, weapons scattered, breathing uneven. Garrett stood frozen behind the shattered observation panel, his instincts telling him to act and his body refusing. Because what stood inside the enclosure now was not something anyone interrupted. It was something they survived, and right in front of it, Kyo still had his hand buried in thick black fur, steady and controlled, as though nothing about this moment was abnormal. The massive Alpha lowered its head slightly into his palm. The energy in the room had not disappeared. It had changed. It was no longer unstable. It was focused. Slowly, the wolf stepped back. The shift came without warning. Bone tightened. Fur receded. The massive frame collapsed inward, reshaping and reforming. Within seconds, Aaron dropped to one knee on the concrete floor, breathing rough, his body shaking from the strain of forced reintegration. His shoulders rose and fell sharply. Muscles still tense as though they did not yet trust the calm. The silver nitrate graze on his shoulder, carried over from the beast, was still there, bleeding slowly. Kyo moved first. No hesitation. He closed the distance, crouched in front of Aaron, pulled off his outer shirt and pressed it firmly against the wound. His movements were precise and practiced, but his focus was not only on the injury. It was on Aaron. "You're stable," Kyo said quietly. More like confirmation than a question. Aaron did not answer immediately. His head was lowered, hair falling forward, breath still uneven. But his hands, no longer clenched and no longer shaking, slowly relaxed against the ground. "It's quiet," he said at last. Voice rough and unfamiliar, even to himself. That alone said everything. Kyo nodded slightly. "Because you're not fighting it anymore." Aaron let out a slow breath and lifted his eyes enough to meet Kyo's. For the first time since they met, there was no pressure behind his gaze, no dominance pushing outward. Only clarity and something else that had not been there before. Recognition. Kyo did not look away. Behind them, the disposal team began to move again. Callum struggled to his feet, disoriented but trained enough to react. He wiped blood from his lip, eyes locking onto Aaron immediately. His hand moved toward his sidearm. "Don't," Garrett said sharply from the doorway. Callum did not listen. He raised the weapon. Aaron did not even turn at first. He did not need to. The shift in the air hit before anything else. Not explosive, not aggressive, simply absolute. The kind of pheromone pressure that did not push, it crushed. It filled the space so completely that resistance ceased to exist as an option. Callum froze mid-motion. His hand locked around the weapon, but unable to lift it farther. His breath hitched, instinct overriding training in a way no one there could fight. Aaron stood slowly, not rushed, not strained. In control. When he finally turned, his gaze did not need to be sharp. It did not need to threaten. It simply held. "You were told to stand down," Aaron said. Voice steady now, carrying the same authority as before, but different. Grounded Callum swallowed hard, his grip loosening without his permission. Aaron took one step forward. The entire room reacted. Every alpha present felt it at once. The instinctive, unavoidable recognition of hierarchy. Not forced, not challenged, acknowledged. "You do not enter my territory," Aaron continued, "and raise a weapon toward what is mine." The last part landed differently, not louder. Final Column's hand dropped completely. Behind him, the rest of the unit followed without being told. Weapons lowered, postures shifted. The fight was over before it could begin again. "Leave," Aaron said. This time they listened. No argument, no resistance. They backed out one by one, dragging their injured with them. The tension eased only after the last of them disappeared behind the door. Silence returned. But it was not the same silence as before. Garrett exhaled slowly and lowered his weapon. "It's done," he said, more to himself than anyone else. Aaron did not respond. His focus had already shifted back to Kyo. Kyo stood close, steady, his hand lowering now that the bleeding had slowed. He did not step away. He did not create distance, Aaron noticed. "You stayed," Aaron said. It was not a question. Kyo tilted his head slightly. "Running would have made it worse." "You didn't know what I was. I knew enough." Another pause. Then Aaron stepped closer. This time the movement was not instinctive, it was deliberate. He stopped within reach, close enough that the connection no longer needed the beast as an intermediary. It was already there. "You felt it," Aaron said quietly. Kyo nodded once. Every time. Aaron's jaw tightened slightly. "And you still came back." "Because it wasn't trying to hurt me." That answer settled something inside Aaron. Not fully, but enough. He lifted his hand, hesitated for a fraction of a second, then closed the remaining distance. His fingers brushed Kyo's wrist, not gripping, not claiming. Just contact, real, immediate. And this time, there was no separation. The connection did not split between beast and man. It was one. Kyo felt it clearly now. Not the overwhelming pressure of an alpha king, not the instability from before, only Aaron, whole. You stabilized it, Aaron said. Kyo shook his head slightly. No, you let it come back. Aaron's touch tightened just a little, not enough to restrain, only enough to hold. And you, he said quietly, stood in the middle of it. Kyo did not answer because there was nothing to argue. Aaron exhaled slowly, the last of the tension leaving his body. For the first time, his posture was not guarded, not defensive, not isolated, open. I spent years trying to control that part of me, Aaron said, locking it away, treating it like something separate. Kyo met his gaze, and now Aaron's finger shifted slightly against Kyo's wrist. Now it listens, not to commands, not to force. His eyes did not leave Kyo's. To you. Some things did not need to be said louder. Garrett cleared his throat softly behind them, grounding the room again. The board won't stop. Smith won't either. Aaron did not look away from Kyo. I know. This time, there was no hesitation in his voice. No conflict. Only certainty. They'll come back, Garrett said. Aaron finally turned slightly, expression calm. Then they'll learn. Garrett did not ask what that meant. He already understood. Kyo shifted his weight slightly, but still did not step back. And the sanctuary? Aaron looked at him, directly. Send me everything it needs. Funding, expansion, security, medicine, land. Kyo blinked once, surprised, though only slightly. You're serious? Aaron's gaze did not waver. You walked into a cage with something that could have killed you, and you didn't see a monster. Kyo said nothing. Aaron finally released his wrist, but not completely. His fingers brushed lightly once more before pulling away. That is not something I ignore. The meaning was clear. This was not only about the beast anymore. Maybe it never had been. The connection between them did not fade when the moment ended. It stayed, quiet, steady, real. And as Aaron turned to deal with everything waiting above them, the board, the consequences, the political war that would follow, one thing had already changed beyond reversal. He was no longer fighting himself. And for the first time, he had someone he did not want to push away. Someone he chose not to lose. Just like that, the Alpha King was no longer alone. And the monster he feared most became the one thing that finally brought him peace. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more unforgettable tales from Alpha Higher Stories.